Hi friends, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Your host is always John Correa. With me today, Terry Johnson, the apostle of attorneys and the executive vice president of firearms legal protection. Had an interesting video on the channel of a 14-year-old kid who drew a firearm and shot a robber. And I want to talk today about the legalities of a 14-year-old carrying a gun at a place of business.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
So Terry, as you watched this video, I watched your eyebrows creep up, man. What was your initial thoughts when you were watching this?
You know, when I saw it, I just see a kid pull a gun out. First of all, it's a place of business.
Yes.
So let's make sure we keep that in line. It's a place of business, and the kid pulls a gun out, and he literally almost point blank range shoots a guy in the face.
From this far away, shoots a guy in the face, right?
Yeah.
Interesting, it didn't kill the guy.
I guess when we look at this, we got to look at, was there an immediate threat there?
Well, we're going to talk about that part in a different video, but I want to talk on this video about, okay, so the kid is in a business with mom. Now, it was a little odd in the news story. If you've watched it, I linked it in the news story, and we put a link to that video in the description, that mom was at this place of business, but I don't know that it was mom's place of business, but at least mom was involved enough that her 14-year-old's behind the counter, right? So not a little thing here. I know some people are going to ask, like, wait a minute, it can't be legal for a 14-year-old kid to be carrying a gun.
Depends on the state you're in. So here's the thing you got to look at. In certain states, and I'm not sure if Pennsylvania is one of them, so I want to say that up front before we get all the comments in the comment section there. But if Pennsylvania's castle doctrine allows a business, like some places are your home, your vehicle, your place of business.
Your place of business.
Right.
Certainly here in Arizona, your place of business is considered a castle just like your home.
Exactly.
If it's your place of business.
Exactly. So my question would be, whose place of business was it?
Okay.
I'm making an assumption that it was mom's place of business. And under that assumption, then the 14-year-old has a right to carry a gun in that business to protect himself or protect others. Because, again, under the doctrine, it's, again, assuming this is in Pennsylvania, you've got your home, your business, and your car. So a 14-year-old having a gun there would be no different if a 14-year-old had a gun in his own home to protect himself or protect others.
Now, I certainly think that the people are going to ask, like, wait a minute, this seems out of place. And obviously a very high-profile recent case with Kyle Rittenhouse at 17 years old, carrying a rifle outside the home. But this isn't outside. This is in the castle, as it were.
Correct. And there is no rule in the castle that says you need a permit, that it has to be stored a certain way. Again, now the question becomes, was this kid trained, because this puts a lot of burden back on the parent, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And
legally, for sure.
Legally, absolutely. So if the burden goes back on the parent and the parent said, hey, protect our house or protect our business in this case, there could be some blowback on the parent.
Well, especially if the child makes a mistake, right? If the child shoots somebody they ought not have shot,
yes.
Then I think we reasonably saw this not too long ago with a recent active killer whose mom and dad have been charged with some pretty serious charges in that case, with the prosecutor saying, and I know it's a whole other kettle of fish, but the prosecutor saying mom and dad were grossly negligent in allowing that child access to a firearm. So we got another 14-year-old here. Now, of course, your state law is going to be different.
The difference, okay, but if you want to look at the big difference there again, that was outside the home.
Right.
And we have to always
Kid taking a gun to school.
Right, we always have to know our where, okay? So this is outside the home. Since it's outside the home, different rules apply for self-defense. And what I mean by that, I know, again, here come the comments, I know. But what I basically mean by that is there are certain places where you get a little more freedom.
Yeah.
Your home.
More presumption.
More presumption, your home, your business, your vehicle. And again, it depends upon the state laws. But again, in Pennsylvania, I'm going to make an assumption that the business is a place where, in this case, the minor child can come and have a firearm to protect the business.
Now, I think it's worth talking about that. You say, well, wait a minute, could a 14-year-old, we expect people to act reasonably with firearms, right?
Absolutely.
And do 14-year-olds act reasonably?
18-year-olds don't act reasonably.
Okay,
Neither do
28 years
21.
old, 38 years old, 48. I think people act unreasonably at any age. And I would say, in my reasonable estimation, it really depends on the 14-year-old. I've seen 14-year-olds that are highly reasonable people and
Absolutely.
are old souls, right? That would do okay. And then other 14-year-olds that I'm like, I wouldn't trust you with a bicycle, let alone a gun.
And that's what it truly comes down to, like even in the house or a business. Your 14-year-old may be different than my 14-year-old. And my 14-year-old may, like you said, I can trust you with a gun to do certain things. Another one, this 14-year-old may say, hey, I'm going to take this gun and go out and rob a liquor store tonight.
Yeah.
So you have to know your children, what you've taught them, and more importantly, be honest with yourself. When you accept, we're going to have to cut that part out. When you review your kid and say, look, I need you, boy, I'm just bundling this up. Hold on, John, let me get my brain back together. Okay. When you look at your 14-year-old, you really have to look at them and be honest with yourself and say, I trust this kid. This is my kid, I've raised them right. Or you know what? I love my kid, I just don't trust him to do certain things. It's the same thing with the car, right? You've got 4 kids, right?
Yep.
Each of them are different.
Very different.
And one you may trust with one thing, another one you may not trust with another, but you have to know your kids and what they're capable of. And be honest in your assessment of your children.
And I know in some states there are laws about those under 18 having access to firearms. And
Yes.
so you got to follow those, right? But in most states, especially in a place of business, when you're in your castle, that part is not the problem. Now, next week, Terry brought up earlier, we want to talk about this actual incident and go, was that justified? Was there justification for what he did here? And that is a different kettle of fish. Terry, thanks for the knowledge.
Thank you.